Okay, let's talk about Bludfest. Hello there guys and welcome back to another video. Today I just want to give my in-depth thoughts of Bludfest as an event. Some things that I've seen, conversations that I think are valid to talk about. So starting off with controversy before the festival even happened. The pricing. The pricing had gone up quite significantly. So last year it was $49.50 for a day festival, and this year it was £73. Now, that is quite a drastic increase compared to the first year, because that you're looking towards a 40-50% increase. But the first year, you've got to treat it as a pilot. It was make or break. Can we fill enough people into this place to warrant it being an annual thing? And the first Bludfest, it's safe to say, was a success. It had quite an impressive lineup with obviously Dom headlining. You had Lil Yachty just before, you had The Damned, you had Lola Young, which at the time wasn't as mind-blowing as it is now. But you got to think, this was 10 months ago. And you also had some smaller but well-known names too, especially Yungblud fans, so no offence. He's done really well in terms of building his own fan base, and a lot of people are aware of him. Jessie Jo Stark, obviously, she's a lot more known for her work with Chrome Hearts and the model industry, but she is still a musician, and she has got some tunes, to be fair. This year, just personally, the lineup really didn't do a lot for me. I'm not a fan of anyone else that was there other than Yungblud, but there were some names that I was interested in checking out. So Denzel Curry, he's a rapper. Rap isn't my genre of music at all, but I went to see his set and he was really good hype man. Nothing mind-blowing for me, but he was a solid name to have on there. Black Bear is very much known as someone who has featured on a lot of songs. Apart from songs like Hot Girl Bummer and Queen of Broken Hearts, the only songs I know for him are features. Chase Atlantic. Now, it makes sense that they were there because they go back with Dom for years. I think there would have been more excitement if the project between Chase Atlantic and Yungblud had ever come to light. I think Bludfest would have been a great opportunity to debut it, but if they don't want to put it out, they don't want to put it out. That's fine. So the lineup for me going into it was weak. But at the same time, I'm happy to just go and check out a few people and see Yungblud. But do I think the festival was worth the money? Yes. But what I would say is it's definitely at the upper end of good value. I think that festival was totally worth 73 quid. The guest area, I'm glad I didn't get guest area. One, because I don't want to be just sat in a secluded spot with a view that's not much better than anywhere else, that's just full of people taking selfies all day, especially for 110 quid a ticket. That I don't think's good value. But I think people do just like feeling like a guest. I personally didn't have one bad experience at the festival. I found it perfectly easy to get a drink. There were a couple of times when I went to the bar and the queue was moving very slowly. There was a time when the iPads went down and they couldn't take card payments. But I've got to give it to the staff. They straight away were on it. And me and Casey were behind a few people in the queue, but this guy just brought 2 cups of water and went, guys, here's some water for you. So that I cannot fault it at all. I have seen some people saying that they were finding it very difficult to get water and had to wait a long time to get water. Personally, I didn't have that problem, but I did see a few times just walking about that the queue for the taps was quite long. But a way to get round that is just go to a food vendor with a short queue and get a can of water. Yes, you might not want to pay for water, but if it gets you out of a half an hour queue in the direct sunlight, I'd rather do that. Prices at the festival. I didn't think food prices were bad at all. I've just come from Download Festival, which I'd say the prices there were significantly more. I also think the festival did very well with providing more shade this year. Last year it was you either sat behind a barricade or behind the bar. If you timed it right and the outside of the bowl where the trees are and you got shade there, you could go there. But this year there was a lot more fences up beyond the barricades, so there was almost like 2 barricades, and some of them had like black sheeting going down it, so that gave you more shade in the actual arena, which what I thought was really good. Yes, it's not official shade, like as in putting a canopy in a seated area, but it's still something. And you're at a festival, you are going to be on your feet all day, but it was just nice to have a few more areas. Like me and Casey went in the shade pretty much every other half an hour, and I don't think we struggled once finding any. I've also seen someone on TikTok that had a very bad experience with the security. I could be wrong with this, but it seemed like this was after Dom went to the Hawley. Then people were coming back after him. This couple had clearly tried to go back into guest area. The security guard was asking to see their wristbands, but sounding like a complete arsehole about it, and apparently grabbed the lad and threw him on the floor. That is completely unacceptable. That is a complete abuse of power. And then accused the couple of being racist. This is all on video as well. And even though there might be more to the story, it very much doesn't sound like it. The couple sounded like they were being reasonable. Obviously, tensions were high. They definitely sounded like they were being reasonable and just trying to come to some sort of agreement, which the security guard definitely wasn't having. Now, that isn't necessarily a fault of the festival, and definitely not the fault of Yungblud, because there were so many security guards around. When I was waiting to try and catch Dom when he went over to the Hawley, security guards were all around me. And bear in mind, I'm stood like right next to the entry of guest area. Obviously, I'm trying to stay out of the way so everyone can get through and all that. But it'd still be completely reasonable for them to tell me to move. They didn't, and there was so many of them, and no one was an arsehole to me. There were security guards that I spoke to all throughout the day, and getting in, everyone was perfectly respectful. I can't fault the security that I interacted with on that day. But I definitely think that some sort of complaint and investigation is justified for that one particular staff member who was very rude, very unprofessional, and by the sounds of it, very aggressive to that couple. But aside from that, I haven't seen many people complaining about anything to do with this festival. My one complaint last year was the fact that the entry was so shambolic. But at the same time, I think we all approach that with the mindset of, this is the first one, this is testing the water. And the fact that there was no other major flaws throughout the day made me a lot more favourable to the festival as a whole, and a lot more confident for this year. So when Dom said about more entrances being open and it's going to be a lot more efficient, I approached the back of that queue that we were queuing by a road. And if you know Milton Keynes Bowl, you know it's a little bit of a trek to get from the bowl to a road. But I was perfectly confident that we were going to get in fairly quickly. And we got in at just past 12:30. I think the thing for me this year was the fact that it felt more like a festival. Last year felt very much like a Yungblud gig with way too many supports. There were a few things like the Holy Arms and the Weird Wall, and you could go into the place and play Dom's signature guitar, which was all there this year, but everything just felt so inclusive and entertaining. It just felt like there was so much more to do. The Make a Friend tent was really good. If you went on your own, that was a very safe space and a very nice place to be in. Stuff like the Lovesick Lullaby experience being free, which I think we can all agree that if there's a couple of you and you do it, you'd pay like 5-10 quid each for that video. And same for the photo booth. Like, me and Casey went in a photo booth at Download and it was 6 quid. Literally for 4 tiny pictures. But we paid it, and the photo booth in the Make a Friend tent, it's manually operated. So there's a staff member pressing the button to take pictures. Now, you might think that's hardly like being sent down the pit, but it's still another staff member that's got to do a job. Whereas the one at Downloads, literally just a normal photo booth, you put your money in and then it takes the pictures. And this was all free. When the pricing for the festival's going up, yeah, it's going up by like 25 quid, but you've got to think, 6 quid saved on a photo booth, that's already brought it down to 19 quid. A lot of places would charge a tenner for a video, so that's taking it down to 9 quid. The difference in price of a meal is probably about 3 quid, so you're taking it down to 6 quid. For what you got at that festival, it really felt like it earned its price more throughout the day. When you factor in, Yungblud really tries to keep his ticket prices down, and I'm sure with the upcoming tour there will be opportunities, because they are the biggest venues that he's ever played. I'm sure there will be opportunities for people who are struggling with money to apply for free tickets like he's done before, or cheaper tickets. But when you factor in that a standing ticket for the O2 Arena is £66, that is the most expensive one on the UK tour. Paying another £6 for a whole day festival, I personally don't think you can get any better value. I don't have one bad thing to say about Bludfest. I think you've got to approach these topics with context and realise what the festival's actually trying to do. But I think Bludfest will go really far. It was such a great event. It was a perfect way for Dom to make his official comeback onto stage. Dom's actual set was absolutely incredible. He brought out Billy Idol, which was just such an iconic moment for someone who you can clearly see is a direct inspiration for Yungblud, especially self-titled with stuff like The Funeral. The actual set was phenomenal. The pyro was mind-blowing. The set list was perfect. We got Tim Panboy, Brain Dead, the perfect amount of idols. There wasn't too much, and there also was enough to please people that want to hear songs that if you go to see him a year later, you might not be hearing, like Change or something like that. And I'm sorry to anyone who had a negative experience, anyone who did have anything negative happen at the festival. It's very unfortunate because, like I say, I didn't experience anything negative. I genuinely can't fault it. But I also did want to come on here and acknowledge the critiques and the experiences that other people had at the festival. So those are just my thoughts on Bludfest 2025. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of the video, and let me know what you thought of Bludfest. See you in a bit.